What are some red flags of a bad friendship? You are drained after you hang out. Not drained in the sense where an introvert feels drained by social interaction. Other posters said it better than I did. It's drained in the sense that you give everything to this person in terms of attention and receive little in return. It's the friend who can quite literally only talk about themselves for hours and hours. It's usually about some trivial problem they've decided they want to psychoanalyze yet again. Bonus points for exhausting amounts of repetition and reaching years into the past to retread old ground. You are lucky to get a word on edgewise. If you do get a word in, friend will turn that convo back to their interests whiplash fast. Rinse, repeat into infinity. I feel drained after hanging out with anyone. That doesn't mean I don't like them or don't enjoy their company. I just need time to recharge. A good workaround is to incorporate online activities into your social routines. It's a lot less exhausting. Maybe I don't have the energy for a night out, but I'd probably be down for an online raid. Or relieved to be parting company. When you're going through a hard time and they distance themselves from you. I'd been friends with my ex since we broke up, and she suddenly stopped talking to me while I was in a really bad place, and she saw something that indicated I might relapse. I've been sober like 8 months, and she said basically don't speak to me again and cancelled our upcoming plans. The reality was, I was just using the post as a way to vent because my last support system in my life had disappeared, so I just needed someone to talk to. But I've had more or less the same experience with everyone I've called a friend. But you know what? Good riddance to all those people. If I'm around long enough, maybe I'll find friends and girlfriends who don't abandon me. I'm sorry mate, wish I had a way to cheer you up but I don't. All I can say is hang in there. Things won't get better immediately but they will. Just stay strong and try to think about the positive. 8 months sober is a great achievement. I'm sure there are still people in your life that care, even if only to hang out and take your mind off things. One person is always the initiator, whether it be contact, going out, etc. This is not that bad and can be a pretty normal social dynamic. People are different. In the end you're hanging out a lot, so good for both. Not necessarily. Sometimes when this happens you wonder if you would ever see them if it weren't for you putting in the effort first. Or you could be in the position I've been in with a friend from high school. I'm lucky to get a direct no within 24 hours of texting. I get what you mean, and there are many cases where you're right, but on the flip side, being in a don't call me, I'll call you friendship is just as toxic. Yeah, I have a friend like that. He just honestly forgets. When I initiate something he is more than happy to see me, and we have a great time. He always talks about how great it was to see me. But he is slightly autistic, so that's why he's bad at keeping in touch. When you never hear from them, unless they need something. This one is huge. My brother has low functioning autism, and people have been taking advantage of him for years. He finally wisened up to it, and cut out at least 9-10 of his old friends in the last few years, because they were calling him up for a good time, only to make sure he was the one paying the bill. The last straw for him was when he ended up paying 1.5k USD for one of his friends to go to Vegas or something with him. Oh, I hate to be on the giving end this. It's pathetic. I know I've failed as his friend, but I need to do this thing too. I usually try to reconnect with them afterwards. I don't think there is anything wrong with it really. It's the ones who not even help you. If you ask, that is the problem. It's actually a pretty good thing in a relationship where, when they think they need help, they think of you. Friendship is a circular thing. When one person is always right and one person is always wrong. Oh, I'm guilty of this. I'm trying to improve on this. I just hate it when someone's wrong. Yes, I know that wrong is subjective. From their perspective they are correct. And I can be actually wrong. Although there are some objective truths. Lots of good advice here. I hear y'all. Thank you. Give us one example of something that happened recently. Just last week for me, rap isn't music. It most definitely is. Actually, no it's not. Look up the definition of music. Google's the definition of music. No, that can't be right. Rap doesn't have the essential element of music. Look up the 5 essential element of music. Google's element of music. Rap only has maybe one of those element. 2 tops. There is no harmony or instruments. Just some guy talking gibberish into a microphone. When you overhear them making plans, seemingly fun plans you'd enjoy with your other friends. I'm antisocial but it still hurts. Asking would be nice. I'm probably the problem in my case, but this is still a red flag for normal functioning humans. And to clarify, I do not reject them constantly. Maybe it was poorly worded, but by antisocial I meant I find it can be more stressful than worth to make plans. But if someone else is happy to make plans I'd enjoy, I'll happily come. My friend group are all out camping this weekend together. Never even invited me. I won't lie, it hurts a little. Just wait till you don't get an invite to the wedding. Happened last year. But, to be fair, I was dog sitting for the happy couple, so I couldn't go anyways. Dog sitting for the happy couple instead of being invited to take part in the best day of their lives. You never hear from them unless you initiate the contact. I somewhat agree. I have a friend who suffers from depression and she will do this when she's going through a rough spot. Yeah, but that's a legitimate reason to not hear from her when she is struggling with her own thing. Clearly you two have some communication around the why, which is good. I think it mainly pertains to when nothing is wrong, but you are always the only one ever texting or calling or making plans. That's when they just don't care. That's me right now. I have 7 people who I need to reply to, and it's been 2 months. I know they hate me and I'm sorry. I wish they could understand, but how could they if I don't communicate it? Now it's been so long I'm too scared to even say anything at all. Not always, but yeah, it's kind of true. I have extreme anxiety issues, so sometimes I'm just unintentionally ghosting. Being dismissive of all your interests and achievements. Meanwhile everything they do, no matter how mundane, is amazing. Right. I have a friend who is just competitive about everything. I'm sure it had a lot to do with the sibling rivalry he had with his brothers, but with me it just gets old. Yeah, well, I have a friend too who's probably more competitive than your friend. I had a friend who would pretend to care what I was up to in life, just so she could humble brag about all the cool stuff she did over the holiday. BC her family is pretty rich. I'd mention I went to Tokyo with a friend for 8 days, and she'd cut me off to say I went to Kyoto with multiple friends for a longer time. And it was just so infuriating. She'd act similarly about her grades and even her brother's achievements. Ridiculous. Very, very clingy. Can't accept that you weren't best friends after knowing each other for 2 weeks. Makes you feel like you're solely responsible for their mental health. That's a real bad sign. Yeah, but after 4 years of friendship, when one starts pulling away without telling you, is it not a good reason for the other to feel unwanted? I'm not saying responsibility for the mental health of the one, but when someone does this to his best friend, is not a good reason for the other to be weird about it? There is a certain limit. I've been in a major depressive episode for about 2 years now, and have struggled with suicidal ideation a lot during that time. You really can't expect even a best friend to be your therapist, especially when it becomes the majority of your relationship. Always insulting you, insisting it's a joke, getting upset if you say anything back. It might sound obvious, but it took me way too long to realize what a problem it was, and even longer to realize I didn't have to put up with it. What about if it's the British way of friendship? I.e., I will rip chunks out of you for fun and expect it back in return, but we'll always be buddies. I've had friendships like that too, and it's 100% fine. The difference is when they purposely cross the line, never apologize, blame you for getting upset, and get legitimately mad if you dish it back. It also makes a difference when you know they are just messing around and they actually care about you vs when they actually mean it. Look through all your old messages and tally how many times you've suggested meeting up vs them. It can be staggering, even if you don't recognize it. This isn't black and white though. If there is a legitimate reason for this, then it may not be red flag. I did an experiment 2 years ago where I stopped being the one to reach out to my high school friend. She hasn't texted me once in 2 years. I'm pretty much always down to hang out with anyone, but as someone with anxiety I often feel like a burden asking people to hang out. I still do it sometimes, so my ratio probably isn't that bad, but it isn't easy for me. Also frequently want to hang with someone, then forget to ask them lol. flaking on engagements with you, and only talking about themselves without asking about how you are doing. A friend of mine did the second, and when I told her this, and that it didn't feel like a two-way friendship, she started making sure to always ask how I was. Only, that's all it is. I could say literally anything in answer, and get nothing back, but how she's doing. So she fixed her words but nothing else, it feels like. Without asking about how you are doing. That's a very American thing to point out. In a lot of cultures, asking that would be considered prying and extremely rude. If you wanted to talk about something bothering you, you should bring it up, because it's not my place to push you into telling me. 1. They only talk to you when they want something. 2. They bring you into unnecessary drama. 3. They tell all your secrets. 4. They make you feel bad about yourself when you go to them with your problems. 5. You only hang out on their terms. 6. They manipulate you when you don't realize. 7. Whenever you do something good they put you down and try to one-up you. 8. They are never happy for you. 9. They only tell you what you do wrong and not what you do good. 10. They blame stuff on you because it's okay you're their friend. Hope this helps. Do not allow toxic people in your life. I could go on, but I won't bore you. Have a nice day. When they're constantly on their phone when you're with them, but take forever to answer you when you're not. There are non-social activities that people do on their phone, though, and texting people can require a lot of emotional energy that something like playing a game or browsing Reddit doesn't. It's one thing if they are texting people constantly or something, but I don't think people should have an obligation to engage socially just because they are using their phone. I think it's more about the fact that they are blatantly ignoring you all the time when you know it's not because they just didn't see the text. Of course texting isn't an obligation, but it really does hurt when it's a constant thing.